Your Honor,
Yes.
apologize to the court for my inefficiency. Might be better if you give the jury a short recess while I get the appropriate exhibits marked.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a 15-minute break. Remember my previous instructions, not to do any research. Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from inside the courtroom. Do not even think about this case unless you're in the courtroom. Does everyone understand? All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.
Okay. Yeah.
You still need this?
All right.
He shot his.
Oh, I did?
You left it on the.
All right, everyone, please be seated. Stated still your witness. You may proceed.
Doctor, before the recess, talked about how you collected evidence from a body. And how do you would you describe that process again?
Yes, we collected fingernail clippings using sterile clippers into a sterile piece of paper and packaged in an envelope for each hand. We also did a sexual assault kit, which involved the pubic hair combings and pulled known pubic hairs, same for the scalp hair, and then swabs and smears created from the oral cavity, the vaginal cavity, and the rectal cavity.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Doctor, I'm showing you an envelope that has been marked as State's Exhibit number 56. And inside the contents of State's 56 is a plastic bag that contains a number of, I guess, sub-exhibits.
All right, defense, you may move about. And do you need gloves as well?
Okay. And so there's an envelope marked as State's 56A. And if you could, what is State's 56A?
This is what we call a coin envelope, and it contains the fingernail clippings from the left hand and from the right hand, as well as the clippers that were used to trim them.
Okay. And how do you know that these are the clippings that you took in the conduct of the autopsy on Ms. Boyd?
This envelope is labeled with stickers with her case number.
Okay.
And her name.
All right. And you placed them in yourself?
We did, yes, sir.
Okay. How many swabs do you collect?
We collect swabs from the oral cavity, vaginal cavity, and rectal cavity. So, but 2 sets from the vaginal cavity. So that would be 8 total swabs in 3 containers.
Okay. Showing you what has been marked as swabs, 3 containers. They've been banded together, both with the exhibit State's Exhibit 56B. Examine State's 56B. Does that fairly likely look like the swabs you collected in the autopsy you conducted on Ms. Boyd?
Yes, sir.
And how is you can testify to that?
Each one is labeled with her case number, her name, and what it is.
Okay. And then there are 3 flat containers look like wrapped in cardboard. They're identified as dry specimens smears, 3 of those, and they are marked as State's Exhibit 56C.
Yes, these are cardboard slide holders. So there's 3 of them here. Each one contains 2 glass slides, like microscopic slides. So after those swabs, cotton-tipped swabs have sat in each of the respective cavities, I pull them out one at a time and smear each one on separate, clean, sterile, microscopic slides, and then set the rectal one aside, and then do the same for the oral and do the same for the vaginal. So we have swabs, and we have what we call smears, where we take that cotton swab and smear it onto the glass slide. So there's 3 of those, one for oral, one for rectal, and one for vaginal.
And then finally, you also mentioned combings, and we have a number of envelopes marked states 56D. What is that?
So these are they all labeled D or different?
56D is one, 56E, 56F, and 56G.
Sure. So D as in dog is the combed scalp hair, and that is a piece of paper placed beneath her scalp hair, and with a sterile new plastic comb used to comb any kind of debris out of her hair and onto the paper. The paper is folded up along with that same plastic comb, and it's put in this envelope. I can feel the comb inside. It's labeled with her case number and what the specimen is. 56E as an elephant is the pulled scalp hair. And so this is, again, with the sterile piece of paper and plucking representative hairs from different regions of the scalp, and placing into the paper and into the envelope and sealing it. And then that process is repeated in what is labeled as F and G. F is the combed pubic hair, same process with the comb, you can feel inside the envelope. And then G is the pulled pubic hair, same where representative samples of pubic hair are plucked.
And so then, Doctor, the contents of all those exhibits you just discussed, do those consist of the physical evidence you obtained off the body in the autopsy of Miss Boyd?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, tender states 56 in its contents to defense for inspection and move to introduce states 56 into evidence. I'll let you inquire. I'm calling you.
Yeah, inquire just
Yes.
Doctor, 56C versus 56B. These are the swabs you use, correct?
Now, B is the swabs, yes.
And then C are the, tell me about C.
C is the microscopic slides, where each of those swabs is smeared onto their own individual set of 2 slides and placed in this cardboard slide holder. One for the oral swabs put onto slides, we call those smears. Another for the rectal swabs that are then smeared onto the slides, and then another for the vaginal swabs that are smeared onto the slides.
And you did all of that yourself.
Yes, sir.
And your initials are on here somewhere. I know you said your tags are on here, but are your actual initials? There's a lot
They
of
are.
handwriting, so.
Yes, sir. This is me, WM.
Oh, okay, I didn't see.
Yes.
I couldn't tell what that was. All right. Now the rubber bands, I'm assuming those were just put in after the fact. You didn't submit them.
Yeah, I don't remember bundling them in rubber bands. I might have, or the technician might have done that.
And inside of these, there's 2 per
Yes, sir.
sample.
Yes.
And did you package this into this large envelope? 'Cause I don't see the same initials on this packaging. And if it's there, I apologize.
No.
I don't see that same,
No,
I see your marking here on these, but I don't see it on this.
I did not. This is a label created by the San Antonio Police Department. This envelope and this label are not from the medical examiner's office.
But these items inside are.
Yes, sir.
Okay. No objections, Judge.
All right, State's Exhibit number 56 with the contents 56A, B, C, D, E, F, and G is admitted without objection. You may continue your direct examination.
Do you want them back?
That's where they're gonna go anyway. So, Doctor, what's already been. It's 26 admitted. Yes. Doctor, showing what's already been admitted into evidence states 26B. What is the purpose of taking that shot?
This is photograph is to link the most recognizable part of any person's body, which is their face, with the unique case number that we assign to that decedent.
All right. And you don't establish a name and identity until you have proof in the office, in your office, correct?
Well, that depends. Usually, the majority of people who come to our office for autopsy have been identified. There's usually no reason to doubt their identity. On occasion, people come in completely unidentified as a John Doe. Sometimes they come in tentatively identified, and then in those cases, we can take steps, fingerprints, DNA, what we need to do to establish or at least confirm the suspected identity. I believe that we knew who she was, and I don't think there was any need to prove it with fingerprints, but if needed, we collect fingerprints on every decedent anyways, just in case it is needed.
Just for clarity, this autopsy 2015-2243 was performed on who?
Paula Mendez Boyd. I believe that she was referred to as Paulita when I autopsied them.
Right. And that is the party, correct?
Say again, I'm sorry.
This is the person, the body in whom you performed the autopsy that you just testified about.
Yes, sir.
What were your what were your findings overall? Well, we've listed them. What did you conclude to be the manner of death?
The manner of death I classified as homicide.
And about what time did you conclude your autopsy, your examination on October 22nd?
Oh, just having started it at 9, I would just estimate probably around 11:30, somewhere in that range.
Okay. Finally, you previously testified that it's procedure in your office for medical examiner investigators to go to a crime scene and then collect and retrieve the body per your protocol.
Yes, sir.
Now, there's been evidence that
Do you want to offer that picture to Mr. Sherman?
it's already been, yeah, sorry.
It's not in, though, is it?
Yeah.
26 is in.
It's been a minute.
26?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
There's showing you what's already in evidence to State's Exhibit 10. And there's been testimony that the body was initially found surrounded by this bedding, the pillows, etc. And then under State's Exhibit 9, those items have been removed, and there's been testimony these are the medical examiners, your representatives of your office. How is a body transported? How do your personnel, the investigators, just carry a body out as they are? What do they put them in a container? What happens?
So our investigator is at the scene and brings with him or with her, in this case him, he brought with him a brand new, never used before transport body pouch or a body bag. It's large, 7 foot long with a zipper that fully opens. But he also brought with him a new, clean white flat bed sheet. And there, after he's done with his exam, he would have placed this sheet around the body, on the side of the body, and then rolled the body and tucked the sheet underneath so that she was entirely enshrouded in this sheet, and then placed with that sheet into the body transport bag, and it's zipped and sealed with that zipper, zip tie type of seal with the unique case serial number on it. And then that bag with the body inside is placed onto a gurney, much like a hospital or that an EMT uses, a collapsible one that goes to the ground. Placed there, brought up, and then the body transport people will move the body out into their vehicle and bring the body to our office.
Okay, and so to do all of that, if there was like bedding, linen, or other evidence, do the medical examiners take that other evidence to your lab, or does that go someplace else?
No, we do not want that evidence. Our focus is the body. If there's something wrapped around the body or on the body or in the body, then that will come with us. If it's just sitting there at the scene, we don't want the pillow. All we're going to do, if it does come, is set it off to the side and give it right to the investigating agency anyways. So our medical legal death investigators leave those items there at the scene, and whoever's in charge of investigating the scene will collect it if they want it or leave it if they don't. That's not up to us.
And you have also earlier in your answer used the word examination, that the medical examiner's personnel. What type of examinations do they do in the field to the body?
Well, sure. They're at the scene. Mr. Leyva would make observations of body position, how the body's found, any kind of hemorrhage or any bleeding, any materials on the body surface, clothing, that sort of thing. Also, he would make observations about rigor mortis and liver mortis, the lividity of the body. He might make an observation as to her temperature, at least to the touch, the temperature of the environment. Is the air conditioner running? Is it scalding hot? And then just general scene observations. Is the front door locked? Is it kicked in? Is it kicked down? Broken windows? Anything like that.
So what's already in evidence is State's Exhibit 12. There's gloved hand manipulating the jaw. Could that be consistent with the examination that the medical examiners, investigators might do at a scene?
Yes, sir.
Finally, are you able, does the science that you practice, are you able to, for the body to be in the state it was, rigor mortis was easily broken? How soon after death does that process start? And how long does it take to get to what you saw as easily broken?
Well, there's tons of variables that go into that. As I mentioned before, as soon as a person dies and their heart is no longer beating and the molecular processes in their bodies are no longer taking place, the rigor mortis, the rigidity of the muscles, will begin right away. In the first few minutes, it's not nearly developed enough to offer any sort of resistance. A person moves as freely as gravity or another force will act on it. But the small muscles are affected first, so the fingers will begin to stay in the position they're in at the time of death. The facial muscles will become a little difficult and stiffer than you would expect. Moving the lips, opening the eyes will become noticeable in about 30 minutes to an hour. If you're well trained, you know what to look for. It's closer to 30 minutes, but at an hour, most people would notice there's something different about opening the lips, for example. But then this progresses and becomes more and more steady as time goes on. And after about 2 hours, a layperson would notice that the hands are clenched, that it's difficult to open the fingers, and would notice that there's some rigidity there. Beyond an hour, then we start to notice in the bigger muscles of the biceps and the legs that it's becoming more difficult to manipulate this body and move this body. By the 3 hour, 4 hour mark, now when a body is moved from one position to the other, the arms and legs are going to stay in that original position, but might still, an average build person could still break that rigor and move, straighten the arm out, for example. But by 8 hours, it's set in there. For a muscular individual, it can be very difficult, even for another muscular individual, to break his rigor. If he's a fit, early 20s athletic guy, it could be very difficult to straighten that person's arm out after 8 hours, after 10 hours. It's going to be set very well. After that peak in the 8-10 hour range, then the opposite effect gradually starts to happen. And it does take another 8 hours or so before it's gone to the point where the arms and legs move with little manipulation and can easily be straightened out. Tons of factors influence that. In a very cold environment, like our walk-in cooler, our incoming cooler, that's the reason why we put them in a cooler at such a low temperature. We arrest that process, and wherever they are, when we put them into that environment and get their body temperature lowered, they will theoretically, generally stay in that condition until we pull them out of the cooler and put them back at an average room temperature for the examination. Then the process starts up right away again. So tons of factors go into it. Not sure if that answers your question. Or
It does. Now, States Exhibit 16, and see, is taken on the thermostat inside her apartment. Are you able to make out that temperature?
Yes, sir.
It's too dark.
I think it says 71 degrees.
All right. Now, 71 degrees, could that retard, or it's a little cooler than the normal temperature in San Antonio, would that retard or degrade that timeline for the onset of rigor?
That is on the cooler side, and it would slow it down, slow down that process more than if it was 80 degrees or 90 degrees or 105 degrees.
And then once it gets to your facility, the cooler is intended to preserve as much evidence as possible, correct?
So it's intended to prevent decomposition, and the process of continuing through that rigor mortis curve is part of the decomposition process.
So from all of that, could you project an estimated time of death working backwards with the data you know?
Well, there's a couple different pieces of information that can give some insight to this. One is my observation at the time of the autopsy, which is 9 a.m. on October 22nd. Her rigor mortis is easily broken. So whatever position her arm is in, we can easily straighten it out and manipulate her body with very little resistance. So that's telling me that she's been dead on the order of 10, 12, 14 hours, or 28 or 48 hours. So there's a little information there from my autopsy, but a lot of the specificity, the usefulness of that has been erased by her having sat in the cooler overnight until I started the autopsy the next morning. One more significant piece of information for me is the observation Mr. Leva made at the scene when he arrived. And he describes her rigor mortis in her arms and her legs and in her jaw as being on the scale of 2+. So that's on the medium to fixed range. So it's not so stiff and rigid and very difficult to move, but it's there, it's observable. He can feel the rigor mortis, but he being a grown man and her being a 75-year-old woman, he can move that and manipulate that. but it's definitely there and it's set. So that gives me more information than what I see at the autopsy. He also describes her lividity as being on her back, consistent with the position she was in, but not being fixed. And lividity is the settling of the blood that happens as soon as your heart stops beating. When it quits moving the blood, it immediately will settle to the part of the body that is closest to the surface of the earth. So in Miss Boyd's case, she's lying on her back, so she has what's called posterior lividity, or lividity on her backside. And that is made visible to us by a red discoloration of the skin of her back. And it's darker red compared to the front surface in this case, except for where her body is touching the ground or touching another object, and then it's blanched. And that's because the blood vessels are being compressed and blood's not allowed to trickle into there where she's touching the surface. But in those parts of her back that are not touching anything and the skin is not being compressed, then we can see the lividity. And Mr. Leyva described that it was not fixed. That means that when he presses against her skin and moves his fingers, he can see the outline of his fingers. If he presses the thumb and moves it, he can see the white blanching of his thumb, and then he can watch it return and become red again. And that tells us that it hasn't settled yet. The lividity timeline is close to the rigor mortis timeline in that it becomes fixed and set in the 8 to 10 hour range after death. When you press your thumb and move it, it doesn't blanch, it stays red the whole time. So the combination of the rigor mortis being described as a +2 and the lividity being not fixed tells me she's dead in the order of an hour, 2 hours, up to maybe 6 hours to get to this point. Maybe even 8 hours, considering that it's 71 degrees, she's nude, the environment is cool, it isn't overly hot. So that's the far end, but it's more likely in that 6 hour range, or even a little less.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions, Your Honor. I pass the witness.
All right, defense.
Thank you.